Thank you so much, Hostbooks, for inviting us on the platform.
My
We are
pleasure.
very keen to share our knowledge with all the current members and the future members of Hostbooks. Thank you so much once again. I hope everyone is safe at their home and at their offices. And now we start with this presentation on recent updates in GST. Prima facie, I have covered all the updates into three parts. One is something like a news update. Second is a press release, circulars, and notifications. Third would be the case laws. So as the topic goes by, last 2 months to 6 months, I have tried to scan each and every update that has come on GST, and we would be sharing those updates in a very concise manner, very short manner, so as to you are able to understand the change and the impact of the same for various industries. Right. Going forward, so let's start with first update of ours with regard to recent news update. The first thing that many of you would have heard is Swiggy has been fined 20,000 rupees for charging GST on soft drinks. So many people have approached me regarding, why the GST has charged, why the GST department has charged this fine to Swiggy. What is the reason of the same? So first of all, I need to make you understand this fine was not charged by GST division per se. This was charged by the consumer forum. Thereby, it does not has to do anything with GST law or GST advisory, right? The issue in this case was Swiggy being a mediator, they pick up the food from restaurants and deliver it to customer, right? So there is a concept of legal metrology law act which states that every product must have a maximum retail price, that is MRP, written on the product. So in this case, what happened is this a Coke can of 30 rupees had a MRP written on it of 30 rupees, whereas while supplying this product from restaurant to end consumer, they have charged GST on 30 itself, maybe 1 rupee or 2 rupee. So they have exceeded the maximum retail price of 30 and landed up to the cost of 32. So this person went to the dispute redressal forum and filed a complaint. The complaint was taken on board. The problem in this was the complaint was not only against the restaurant, the complaint was also against the Swiggy, which Swiggy accepted that the partner restaurant has charged a price more than the MRP, which is against the provisions of the law. However, Swiggy also stated that we have nothing to do with it because we are only an intermediary and we are not responsible per se for supplying the products. We are just acting as a courier partner or a last mile partner, picking up the goods and delivering it to the final consumer. This is what they said, right? But consumer forum said nothing to do. We will not hear all these. We we will not hear all these reasons. Swiggy cannot escape the responsibility it has. It is also the responsibility of Swiggy to see that MRP has been complied with, and they are also responsible to customer. Thereby, they levied a fine of 20,000 rupees on the Swiggy itself in this case. So first of all, with regard to GST, I'll clarify that this was not a penalty or a fees or a charge under GST. GST department has nothing to do with. This is a non-compliance of a legal metrology act against which a district consumer forum has awarded a penalty and given the benefit of interest and the actual recovery back to the customer. So this has nothing to do with GST. Guys, it is very important that you punch in all your questions in the chat box or question and answer box, so that after completing every few slides, I'll be taking a few questions and I'll be resolving your practical problems. So the next part, yeah, this is a very big thing to understand. This came a few months back. What has happened is, so up till now, so let me give you some brief per se. So what happened in the pre-GST regime, in the excise and the VAT regime? So if a truck is going and it is caught by an agency on the road, then they will file a case against that truck, and a penalty and interest would be levied. So nothing happened in real time in those days. It is a matter of chance if you are able to get the truck. Most probably the trucks would pass in the wee hours of the morning at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whereby the officers are not there and a lot of clandestine movements will happen without payment of excise and VAT, etc. So the tax evasion was huge. Under GST, what has happened has lot of bills, e-invoices, e-way bills, challans has happened, because of which government is able to track these movement of goods and are able to levy fines and penalties in case of such clandestine movement of goods. Clandestine movement of goods means movement of goods without payment of due taxes. That means cases of tax evasion, right? So what happened in this case? So this is what National Informatics System or Center has developed, a real-time tracking module of vehicles, whereby I'll show you every officer working on a street, every officer of GST department will always have a handheld in his mobile, and the moment he look at his mobile, he'll be able to figure out that the truck number 1234, which is shown in this picture, is coming from Ballari through Mysuru, Coimbatore, and direct landing to Kochi. The straight red line which you see. So every officer on the street will be able to see this in real time. Not only this, what he will also see is when a truck is coming, he will always come to know that this truck is coming. However, he does not have any this truck number does not have any e-way bill on board, meaning thereby if there is a truck which is empty coming, he has no problem. If the truck is not empty, he will just stop the truck and say, if your goods are loaded in your truck but you do not have an e-way bill, kindly prove it to me that why you do not have an e-way bill. If a truck is coming without e-way bill, then also the officer will know. If the truck is coming with e-way bill, then also an officer will know. If in this case, if the truck is from Ballari is going to Anantapur and then going to Bengaluru and then coming back to Kochi, that means instead of coming straight, he is going and taking a bigger circle probably, and then coming to the officer at Kochi will always, in fact, not at Kochi, but at the every street will know that the truck should go from point A to point B direct, whereas he's taking a longer route. Thereby, it will be much easier to capture such kinds of truck and stop the clandestine movements. Next, whenever you will punch in a vehicle number, if you'll see in this tracking of vehicles, you'll punch a vehicle number. The officer can easily see all the toll plazas at which this vehicle has stopped with the exact date and time. Thereby, he will always come to know, even if in the Anantapur itself, in the Bangalore itself, which exact road this guy has taken. And from, very important to understand, if the distance between two position points, point A and point B, is 5 kilometers, a truck moving at a speed of 60 kilometers per hour is expected to cross this bridge or is expected to cross this distance in a period of 5 minutes. Whereas what happens if this crossing has taken 5 hours? This means, looking at these stoppages and these times, the officer will come to know that between position A and position B, this distance was covered in a period of 5 hours instead of 5 minutes. There was something, clandestine movement. Either the goods have been moved back from truck to certain position, or goods have been loaded or unloaded. These positions can be assessed by a tax officer, and the reasons and chances and the documentary evidence of such non-payment of taxes could be crystallized. So the very, very important point. So I have asked the question, can a tax officer track the movement of goods now? So my answer is absolutely. Every officer in GST, after this vehicle tracking module, can track the movement of goods, and most likely it is like a real time basis. The way you see your Uber, right? It is very close to that kind of tracking, and the day is not far whereby we will, like Uber, we will see the real time movement of goods from position A to position B. Besides this, every time a tax officer punches a vehicle, he will get the last 10 details of that vehicle on all the routes all over India, wherever that vehicle has passed in last 10 pass-throughs. The full details of date, time, place would be available. I'll tell you a very, very practical story on this, which I came to know. in a particular case, a person came to me and he said, because everyone knows that EVA bill is important. Without EVA bill, your goods cannot move. So this guy, he was in the business of selling bills and he was not selling commodities. So he was just issuing invoices. So I told him that post EVA bill, he need to close down his business because now he need to generate an EVA bill. So then he just started generating an EVA bill. Then what is the problem? In case of EVA bills, you cannot mention a truck number which is fake. You cannot have fake truck numbers because the website is now linked to the Vahan, which is the transport authority website. Now he has to punch in the name of a vehicle which is probably a truck itself. Now this guy, what they did is very cunning guy. He took a truck on rent for the entire year, and so this happened in Gurgaon. So Gurgaon, there is only one toll. So this truck he hired for the 1 year. The only job of the truck was to move from point A in Gurgaon to point B in Delhi and cover a distance of 5 or 10 kilometers only, take the receipt from the toll and make sure the truck has crossed the toll. Now those receipts are tagged to every e-way bill and every invoice, and this guy proves that he has generated an invoice, he has an e-way bill, and he has a toll receipt also, thereby goods have been moved. So this is what this guy used to do. But with this real-time vehicle tracking module, now every officer will come to know that this particular vehicle has crossed the particular toll in Gurgaon 10 times a day. That means how can this guy, transport so many goods from such a long distance of 100 kilometers or meters or 200 kilometers? That is impossible. So this real-time tracking of movement of goods slash movement of vehicles have been initiated. This is almost a 2 to 3 months old news. So this we have to be very cautious. Every taxpayer, every recipient of goods has to be cautious that the goods are tracked in real time by every officer. Thereby, there should be no effort on tax evasion of goods. People should not think about tax evasion of goods. So the next news, 24th May 2001, Finance Ministry. So there is a lot of issues with regard to valuation in case of casinos, racehorses, and online gaming. 24th May 2021, Finance Ministry has issued an office memorandum stating that they are working on the valuation of items or services and in which these sectors need to pay tax, whether it is a casino or racehorse or an online gaming. Only an update, and this forum GOM will be submitting their report within the period of 6 months. Yes. Just wait for a second. I'll see. I think there is a question.
Yeah, so there is one question.
There's a lot of chat also going on.
Yeah, so they are saying the PPT is not visible. If you can, I mean.
So is it visible now or not?
Yeah, it is visible, but I guess the font is very small. So
okay.
I guess
So guys, no need to read the PPT. This PPT will be provided to you. So at that time, you guys can use that PPT.
Yeah.
And just listen to me. I myself is also not reading the PPT. And the question that we have parked in this, so you have raised a very question at 11:59. Let me go back to the law. Let me check, and then we will reply you in writing. We'll send an email to you. But let me just check this procedural aspect, and then I'll reply. Probably you can also write in how many kilometers you want to travel. So I'll give an answer to that. Guys, looking forward. So next is GSTN has released. So what has happened? So let us understand the problem first, then we'll come with the solution. So the first problem is that department noticed in many cases of fraud, fake ITC and fake refunds, people were using the credentials of the companies without their knowledge. Whether these were employees, ex-employees, ex-consultants, or their business ex-business partners, whomsoever would be. These credentials in the form of GST number, username, and password was being used for issuing fake invoices, for passing on fake input tax credit, for taking GST refunds which were per se not permitted. So a lot of complaints like this have been noticed. Thereby, government has given a functionality whereby you can go online, punch in your PAN, and see how many GST numbers have been issued with regard to your permanent account number. Guys, please be very careful on this. In one of my clients case, which is a listed company, they have only one office in a particular state, whereas when I first time saw this utility, I punched the PAN number of every client of mine. In case of one listed company, it came out that around 8 GST numbers have been issued without the knowledge of the company, anyone in the company itself. Although we think that no transaction has happened on those 7 numbers, but there were 8 GST numbers issued on a single PAN, whereas the company had a knowledge of only one PAN. Please think about how risky is it for your business, such a big red flag. So I'll request everyone, so detailed process of how to log in and how to correct, how to complain, what will happen. Everything is given in these slides, and host books would be sharing these slides with you, I'm sure. So please be careful. If you are a consultant, ask every client of yours to go and check. So very easy utility. You just have to punch in your PAN details, your basic PAN permanent account number, and then you will get all the GST numbers issued in relation to those PANs all over India. Right? So if you come across anything, which you feel that your GST numbers are also misutilized, then there is a process with regard to report this to the suitable tax officer, and the procedure has also been given here only. Very important point. 26 July 2021, Haryana State GST Intelligence Unit, they said there are 3 main types of red flags that we have noticed. Please, guys, please understand that a lot many people are, are feeling not comfortable over department issuing so many notices and initiating so many, litigation processes with them, serving them the notices, summons, etc. So when we talk to the department, they say it can be reduced to a great extent just if you follow simple basic principles and reduce the red flags. So on this account, Haryana State GST Intelligence Wings have prima facie given you 3 things that if you do on a monthly basis, the risk of a notice would be reduced to a great extent. First is, please match your liability with GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. The liability should be exact match, paisa to paisa, rupee to rupee, amount to amount, value to value, GST to GST, CGST to CGST, SGST to SGST. There should be no difference. In fact, not only this press release, but CBIC has also issued a circular on this matter saying both shall match. Point number 2, input tax credit under GSTR 3B shall not exceed the credit available in GSTR 2A. Guys, please note there is a rule 36(4) which state that up to a limit of 5% there could be a mismatch, but many of my clients are making sure that no ITC is claimed in GSTR 3B unless and until it is visible in GSTR 2A. If you do this, the risk of issuing you a notice on account of input tax credit is practically zero. I'll tell you a very, very recent case in one of the clients of mine. This My client was given a notice worth rupees 12 lakh of wrong claiming of input tax credit. I met the managing director of the company. MD of the company said there is no tax evasion, there is no excess input tax credit taken for even a single party. There is no difference. I said, okay, there is no problem, but because now the notice has come, he has to pay certain fees to the advocates, consultants, and pay a convenience fee also. So he said, this is a mere expenditure. So I told him, this kind of incorrect notices cannot be issued. The officer will have certain information on hand. When we connected with the officer, he showed us clearly all those parties who have not paid the taxes to the government kitty, thereby they were not visible in GSTR 2A. Thereby there was a mismatch between the credit that my client has taken and the credit which was available in GSTR 2A. Although the mismatch was as small as 50,000 rupees. Please note, the mismatch was as small as 50,000 rupees, but taking that as a red flag, he has raised a notice of more than 12 lakh rupees, because he said other input tax credits can also be disallowed. These are, HSNR wrong parties or whatever it may be. So please make sure that ITC that you take is always more than not more than the ITC available in GSTR 2. Third part, which none of the suppliers are doing, I have not seen even a single person doing, but the officers say it is very, very important. Please match your liability that exists in an e-way bill and that is shown in GSTR 3B. The details of e-way bill can easily be pulled out from your e-way bill API software or from the government portal itself. Pull out that information, total it, and match it with your the tax liability in GSTR 3B. You will notice a massive difference between the two. E-way bills are of very high value. GSTR 3B is not of that high value. These three are the biggest risk areas. If you can solve it, one is on account of supply, one is on account of input tax credit, and third is on account of e-way bills. If you can solve these three problems, it will reduce the risk of litigation in your company. So a lot of news, etc. I have covered it. Let me see some question answers, something new. Okay, Mr. SC Jain. So there's one question, guys. What is the rate of tax, rate of GST, I'll say, on sale of old petrol, small purchased vehicle purchase in the VAT regime, guys? So there is the rates. I do not remember. The rates are given. Of course, the rates are 28%, 1%, 15%, and 27. All these cesses and taxes are given. The rate is not important. What is important is an exemption. Please note, if you have purchased any vehicle in the VAT regime and you have not taken any input tax credit, then there is a strong exemption given in the GST law, practically, which it means that the tax levied in the GST would be zero. Please go back and check the exemption. Don't go for tax rate, go in for exemption. There is an exemption which is linked to, I think, this given under section 11(1). With regard to motor vehicles only, there is a specific exemption in the GST law as well as in the GST cess. Thereby, practically speaking, tax payment would be zero. In 100% of the cases, tax payment is zero. Just go and read that notification. So the next question that Tulika ji has asked, in case of carry forward input tax credit for the last financial year, will that also create a problem? Tulika ji, I have not understood your problem. Please give me some more facts. Then I will solve it. So going forward, circulars and updates. Let me see the chat also. Okay, right. So let me go to the circulars. What are the new circulars? So the first and foremost thing that I want to discuss is the tax collections. India's tax collection on account of GST has been above 1 lakh crores for last 8 or 9 or 10 months, which is a good thing. We probably have recovered from pandemic. This is what our tax collections in GST has shown. The next thing that we see is the form GSTR 99C. With regard to financial year 2021, every person who has a turnover of up to 2 crore rupees is not required to file GSTR 9 and is also not required to file GSTR 9C, which was your reconciliation statement. Every taxable person having a turnover of more than 2 crore rupees but up to 5 crore rupees is mandatorily required to file GSTR 9, which is an annual return. However, is not required to file any reconciliation statement, which is filed in GSTR 9C. If the turnover is beyond 5 crore rupees, please file both the forms GSTR 9 as well as GSTR 9C, which is an annual return as well as a reconciliation statement. So there were certain exemptions and benefits given for financial 1920 in regard to GSTR 9 and 9C. Certain non-disclosure, certain optional disclosures. All such optional disclosures will continue for financial year 2021 also. There was a certificate in part B of GSTR 9C, which has now been removed, and instead of that we have a verification by the authorized person under GSTR 9C, meaning thereby Now your GSTR 9C will be self-certified. You may not get it certified by a chartered accountant. So the next is with regard to interest on net cash basis. A very, very important change that has, see a lot of litigation in last 4 years. Now it has finally come, and now it is from retrospective effect from 1st July 2017. If any person has not paid the tax on time because the GST 3B was filed in late, then in such case you are required to pay interest under the provisions of section 51 of CGST Act at the rate of 18%, 24%. Here in this case, government has said that interest would be applicable only on the component which is debited out of the cash ledger, meaning thereby, if your gross liability is 100 rupees, whereas 80 rupees you have adjusted your input tax credit, only 20 you have paid through cash, interest will not be applicable on 100 rupees, interest would be applicable only and only and only on 20 rupees. This is a great change that government, in fact, I think this is only one of the changes which government has accepted on the request of industry per se. And now this is the law of land from 1st July 2017. Two things to note. If so, going forward, you would not have been served any notice that please pay the please pay interest on the gross basis. No officer has power to do it. Now it is the law provided in the GST law. If in past you have been served a notice on this account, now you can easily show that notification 16/2021, and you will need to pay interest only and only on the net competition, not on the gross competition. Third is whereby if you have already paid the taxes, right? If you have already paid the interest on the gross, can you go and file a refund claim? According to me, yes. Please go and file a refund claim under section 54. There is a probability that it will be a rejected refund, but no worries. Of course, if the refund is big, you can easily go to a high court and get the refund sanction, because this is your right. Now the law has been changed from retrospective effect of which needs to be given. So you all would have seen that retrospectively certain changes has been made in the income tax law, because of which Vodafone and Crane has lodged a big refund claims, and refund would be sanctioned to them. So similarly, you guys can also file a refund claim and get your money back if you are already paid on the gross amount. So guys, this is the entire history what has happened day wise on this provision. I'm not going into detail. Our time is very limited and I want to cover as much as possible. Let me see one or two questions more. Okay. Okay. So guys, all right. So I'll take only the relevant questions right now. Other balance questions I'll take after completing my slides. So the next is blocking of input tax credit guidelines. So there are certain internal guidelines. How, so everyone knows the provisions of 86A, which says that under certain conditions your input tax credit can be blocked. So Kerala government has given detailed guidelines on what is the internal process of blocking these input tax credit, right? So I'll come directly to the table. So please note that this is not given by a Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. This is given by the state of Kerala. So in case of state of Kerala, if you are a state officer and a state officer wants to block your ITC, then he has to write it to the jurisdictional joint commissioner, who may decide whether this is to be blocked or not to be blocked. In case a request is coming from the central tax officer, then the central tax officer has to write to CBIC. CBIC will like to write to intelligence wing of the department. Intelligence wing will again pass it on to district joint commission. This is what happened in the state. In case of central, if the taxpayer is under the central jurisdiction and the credit is required to be blocked by a state tax officer, then the state tax officer would be writing it to the economic intelligence wing, and if they find it justified, it will be blocked. If they find it not justified, ITC will not be blocked. Yes. So coming to the next point, in case of B2C invoices being raised by a company more than having a turnover of more than 500 crore rupees, no QR code is required till 30th of September 2021 because the entire penalty on the same for the non-compliance of the same has been waived off. In other terms, it means that with effect from 1st October 2021, every company having a turnover of more than 500 crore rupees would be required to print QR code on the B2C invoices. Please note this provision has been coming for last couple of months, but it is being extended at the last point at every time. Let's see what happens this time on 30th of September. Yes, this is a provision which will be a great benefit to everyone who is listening to the session. Section 194Q says that TDS is required to be deducted. So please note that this is the 194Q of the income tax provisions and not of the GST provisions. 194Q says that deduction of tax at source. TDS needs to be deducted on the payment of any sum made for the purchase of goods, and the TDS rate should be 0.1% where such sum exceeds 50 lakh rupees. Right. So what is the impact of this? The impact of this on GST would be whether TDS needs to be deducted on the part of GST or not. So the first point is answer generally is no. There is no tax on tax, right? So on GST component, tax need not be deducted. TDS. However, I have made 4 or 5 cases for you. Let us understand. First of all, if the payment is made to a composition dealer, please note, if the payment is made to a composition dealer, there is no bifurcation of the GST amount on the same. Thereby, GST would be paid on the gross value, including the GST value. Point number 2, if the payment is made to the normal taxpayer for raw materials, if you are purchasing raw materials and there is a GST component in, then TDS is not required to be deducted on the GST component. TDS is only required to deduct it on the value, whether ITC is taken or not. Same is the case where you are procuring the capital goods, whether ITC is taken or not, it will be deducted only on the value but not on the gross amount. There was no GST, no TDS on the GST component. The point is different in case of advance. If you are paying an advance, then because there is no bifurcation of the amount of GST embedded in such advance, thereby government has mandated that in case of advance, full amount of TDS shall be deducted on the gross value without giving any concessions for GST value. So these are the primarily 4 cases that you will see practically. This is a very long circular. So I have shortened it up and discussed only the GST part with you guys. I have covered 3 to 4 illustrations also for your convenience. Please read it once you get the presentation. Yes, this is also very important. So what has happened in case of COVID? There is a provision of 168A which says that due to COVID related extensions can be given by Government of India. So under those provisions, Government of India has given certain extensions that maybe you can file after 15 days. Maybe EWA bill can be raised after few time. Maybe this is not a non-compliance, or GSTR1 can be filed after 1 month by paying any interest. All these extensions have been given wherever required. Whereas Supreme Court has directed that the period of limitation prescribed under any general or specific, likha nahi hai, any general or specific legislation in respect of all judicial as well as quasi judicial proceedings, whether condonable or not, whether there is a provision of condonation or not, shall stand extended till further order. Meaning thereby, Supreme Court has given an open order of extension for every general and specific law that exists in the country in account for judicial or quasi judicial proceedings. सबके लिए extension है from March 2021, 14 March 2021. Now there is a problem. GST department says please file your returns within a period of 10 days. Supreme Court says no need to worry about any kind of judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings. So a lot of confusion. Government in July 2021 has given a detailed circular which we will have to abide by, even though we may not agree. First of all, proceedings that need to be initiated or compliances that need to be done by a taxpayer. You need to file your returns, you need to file your refunds, you need to While GSTR 3B, you need to match your GSTR 2 versus 2A. There is no extension by Supreme Court for the same. Kindly follow the guidelines which has been given by GST department. First, second, quasi judicial proceedings by the tax department. Tax department is required to issue your refund, application for revocation of cancellation or registration, adjudication processes, demand notices, etc. All these quasi judicial proceedings for tax authorities, Supreme Court has not clarified anything on this. This specific guidelines of GST department is applicable. So many people have asked me, what if I have not been able to apply my GST refund within a period of 2 years? Then that means time has lapsed. This is what this circular says. Last but not the least, they say only and only in case of appeals that are required to be filed by taxpayers or tax authorities, there is an extension, there is an open extension issued by Supreme Court and for which GST department does not have a say. So this is only and only with regard to filing of appeals and nothing else. Right? Let me see questions if I have any up till now. So these two I will deal at the last. Okay. So guys, up till now, we have completed some part. Now we come for case laws. We start the case laws. So first case law is with regard to GST component on the maintenance. So everyone knows that every person living in the resident welfare association knows that he is paying some kind of maintenance to the association. And there is an exemption limit of 7,500 per month per member for the application of GST. So in case of all the big societies where the contribution is more than 7,500, GST is applicable. Now the problem is whether GST is applicable on the gross value. So if the contribution is 8,000, whether the GST is applicable on 8,000 rupees or 500 rupees. Please note, up till date, every authority, every circular has been issued saying that in case the contribution is above 7,500, then GST would be applicable on the gross amount, which will be, whatever it may be. So in case of 70, if it is 8,000 you are recovering, GST will be applicable on 8,000. If you are recovering 7,400 rupees, no GST is applicable. This was the law. However, very recently there is a judgment, and this judgment says of a high court that this is an entirely incorrect law, and the GST will always need to be paid by the difference between the two. If you are recovering 8,000 rupees, then GST would be applicable on 8,000 minus 7,500. That is the balance of 500 only, nothing beyond that. So what is the important point? The moot point is all the people who are paying heavy taxes or are living in tier 1, tier 2 cities in big colonies, please approach your resident welfare association. There is a big gap in the taxes that is demanded by the authorities, and these associations are paying huge taxes to the government, which is finally lying on the pocket of every consumer or the user of the flat, which is not required. Probably a tax position can be taken for this, taking the benefit of a high court ruling. This is the ruling that I have given you. Yes, this is for all the businesses, very, very important. You regularly see that goods are being withheld on flimsy grounds. Sometimes people say the e-way bill has expired, e-way bill is not present, e-way bill does not mention all the goods, the value is wrong. What can happen? So in this case, what happened is the very, very factual case on 4:33 p.m. in the 4th of January, Saturday, a small auto trolley picked up certain paper for delivery, picked up certain goods for delivery. 8:30 p.m. he reached the premises because although distance was for 1 hour only, but there was a political rally going on the way. So the auto trolley has to stop in between drive, and at 8:30 p.m. when he reached the buyer's premises, it was closed, the shop was closed. Thereby, driver took the goods back to his house. Next day was Sunday, he didn't attempt any delivery. Next, on Monday, he went to deliver the goods to the buyer, but God forbid, he was detained by a state tax officer on the grounds that the e-way bill has expired. Now this petitioner has given a representation to the tax officer, saying, telling him all the reasons of why the EV bill is expired. There were political rallies, there was Saturday, Sunday involved, fire premise. But this guy listened nothing. This tax officer listened nothing. He didn't release the goods or the vehicle on the payment of tax and interest and penalty. He released the vehicle to him, and then this auto driver reached Honorable High Court of Telangana saying that I have paid extra taxes. Honorable High Court of Telangana took this person, uh, took this officer and categorized this as nothing short of harassment of the taxpayer on several accounts. First of all, he said officer must consider the explanation that has been offered by the assessee. Tax officer cannot harp on the basic, only the basic provisions that has been given in law without understanding the facts of the case, without appreciating the circumstances of the case. Next, High Court saw that the case has been dealt in a very, very unprofessional manner, whereby the first page of the document has the sign of a deputy commissioner and last page has a stamp of an assistant commissioner. So they say you have not worked in an appropriate manner. Secondly, High Court also noticed that there is a no denial of facts by the proper officer that the traffic did not exist on that particular day. Neither has the tax officer brought on record any documents to prove the tax evasion being done by the tax trolley auto guy. So in this case, High Court of Telangana said, please refund the entire amount of tax and interest penalty recovered from this person, as well as the High Court imposed a cost of 10,000 rupees on the proper officer himself. Very interesting case law. So what happened in this case law is, if so this guy, this supplier has raised an invoice, he has collected the taxes but he has not paid the taxes. So non-payment of taxes, of course, a non-compliance of the GST law. However, this is also a non-compliance of the provisions of Indian Penal Code, which states that the property of the government cannot be used by an individual and he cannot misappropriate or dishonestly keep such property for his own benefit. This recovery of taxes, the property of the government, which my supplier has kept for his own benefit. Thereby, a single non-compliance is a chargeable to penalty under GST Act as well as an IPC Act, both. This guy, the supplier said, I agree that this was my mistake. However, there is a two act. One is IPC, which is a generic in nature, and one is GST, which is specific in nature. In such cases, specific law will prevail, and I should be chargeable to penalty under the specific law only and not under the general law. This is what was the contention of the supplier. However, High Court held against this. High Court said, if a single offense is punishable under two different acts, then both the acts would be applicable, general as well as specific, and the penalties under both the law needs to be accounted for and paid by the supplier. In this case, it was noted that the omission was on the part of the dealer, which was an offense not only under section 132 of the CGST law, but is also an offense under 405 or 406 or 409 of IPC. Hence, he is punishable under both the provisions of the law, even for the same offense. A lot of people face problems that under section 17.5 no ITC is permitted for any kind of loss return or goods that have been written off or lost. So this is a ruling which is ARS seals, which is for the benefit of every one of you. No reversal of ITC is required in case of normal loss. What is a normal loss? I have 1 liter of water, I boil it and then I pack it in a water bottle. But after boiling the 1 liter of water, 100 ml gets evaporated. Do I need to reverse the input tax rate with regard to the 100 ml because this is normal loss? No, it is not required. So guys, just 2 minutes more and probably, yeah, this is the last two cases. So very often you will feel, so there is a provision under, so let me first take you to the provision. Section 6(2)(b) says if any proceedings have been initiated by a state department, which is a state tax officer, same proceeding cannot be initiated by the central officer. And the same provision also exists in another law. If any proceedings have been initiated by the central law, the same proceeding cannot be initiated by the state law. This is the provision. Meaning thereby, for any particular matter, there will only be one authority on your head who is doing the the investigations, the proceedings that are running and everything. There is only one authority. In this case, what happened is state authorities have already issued him a notice. They have these proceedings in progress. Central authorities again came and issued a notice and they wanted certain documents. SIC said this is not permitted, whereas High Court said no, this is possible. First of all, Section 6(2)(b) says if there is proceedings on the same subject matter, if state authorities have initiated a proceeding on a particular subject matter, how will central authorities know that the subject matter is same or different? So in this case, in order to assess whether the subject is same or not, kindly give your documents to the central authorities and let them decide whether the matter is same or not. High Court is not the appropriate channel, or High Court is not the appropriate platform on which you can come and discuss your grievances. First, go to the central department, explain your contentions, and then only. So meaning thereby this case law said if one proceedings have already been initiated, can other be initiated? Answer is yes, other can be initiated. However, if the matter is same, then you have to go to that authority, explain him that the matter is same, and then the second authority will drop that matter. But you cannot come and directly challenge the basis of the document, which is the summon itself in a high court. So meaning thereby all the promises that were made to you in the pre-GST regime, that in all cases there will always be one authority on your head, this were totally baseless, totally untrue. And I believe now multiple agencies would be there on your head, because even the same proving that same matter is subject is almost impossible. A tax officer has initiated a proceeding, he's saying that I want to check your supplies, I want to check your inputs, I want to check everything. He has not crystallized the matter. What will happen? Central authorities will say that we want to check only an input tax credit with regard to Mr. XYZ Limited. So is the matter same? Matter is not same. The matter is different. They are also checking supplies. Here they are checking input tax rate only of one party based on a very specific information. So I think the day is not far whereby even for almost a similar subject matter, multiple authorities would come to your house and start, checking the documents. So guys, last case law, then I will start taking your questions. In this case, what happened is this appellant is a company, and this company has a lot of employees. Appellant has hired a contractor to supply food to their employees, normally lunch, and applicant is recovering a very small portion from every employee. Let us suppose the value of thali was 100 rupees. Applicant is paying the contractor 100 rupees, whereas they recover 5 rupees, 10 rupees, or 20 rupees from the employees. Now the question is, on this 20 rupees, on this recovery from employees, is GST applicable, because applicant is recovering some amount? So in this case, AAR very clearly said this is a recovery from employees, Schedule 3 transaction, nothing, no GST would be applicable on such recoveries. So guys, be rest assured, all recoveries are not chargeable. All recoveries from employees are not chargeable to GST. One is this AR ruling of Karnataka, Dakshina Kannada, which I am giving to you. Please read it. Beyond this, there are other rulings also. Tata Motors have given a similar ruling whereby the recovery from employees will not be chargeable. So guys, I think we are over with our 1 hour being allotted. I was a bit fast, but I hope it added value to a lot of you. And now let me take some questions. Ridhima, should I take the questions?
Yeah, sure. You can, sir. There are some in chat box as well. So if you want, I can read them for you.
So anyone who has put a question in chat box, kindly put it in Q&A. So it becomes very easy. So first question is from Tulika. Input tax rate of April 2020, this reflected in GSTR 2A, but credit is taken in April 2021. will this create an issue? So Tulika, with regard to your first question, so when was the invoice date? I am assuming invoice was for April 2020, and input tax you have taken in April 2021, which is not a problem. You can take the credit till September 21. There is no issue. Please be careful while disclosing the same in your GSTR 9 and 9C. So the problem will not be in availability of ITC. The problem will be the way you disclose the same in your books of accounts and match it to your GSTR 9 and 9C. That's it. Sir, I saw Anand Mahindra's tweet in the levy of GST by hotel on Papad justified. Sir, please, I don't remember what Anand Mahindra is doing. Lot of tweets these days. So, अगर आपके पास वो tweet है, तो please share it with me. I do not remember what he has written. But please don't treat all these tweets equivalent to GST law. So Tulika has again asked, is GST applicable on the rent amount received if the primary business proprietor is engineering services? Then GST need to be paid on rent amount which is received less than 2 lakh. Okay. So Tulika, next question, I suppose what I understand is you are a proprietary business. You have a proprietary business and you also have a rent of 2.5 lakhs, right? Is this chargeable to GST or not? Ideally, it should not be. Ideally, it should not be. But if you look at, certain circulars have been given which says that all the turnover given by an individual, even if it is a salary or interest, will be computed to calculate the annual aggregate turnover, right? So, if you read that circular, they have said that we will even compute the salary in this. We will even compute the interest recovery in this. तो rent तो किस खेत की मूली है? तो practically अगर आप एनुअल टर्नओवर जो है 10 लाख या 20 लाख जो भी आप फॉल करते हो उससे क्रॉस हो रहे हो, I think there is no reason to not to collect GST on this 2.5 lakhs also. If you are registered in the GST for a primary business, there is a high, and you are in proprietary business, there is a high probability that department will come and they will not leave this 2.5 lakh rupees per annum also. बहुत stringent facts चाहिए होंगे, बहुत clear facts चाहिए होंगे, which will prove that this property does not belong to business at all. This is an individual property lying in an individual account, which is almost impossible. उससे जो रेंट आएगा उसमें आपको वो छूट दे दी जा सकती है, बट फैक्ट्स के बेस पे ये केस लड़ना बहुत डिफिकल्ट रहेगा. तुलिका ने एक और क्वेश्चन पूछा है, in case of loan given to employees with minimum interest charged to employee, then नहीं, I don't think ये GST. So we have already discussed with regard to recoveries. अगर हम एम्प्लॉय से कुछ रिकवरी करते हैं तब भी डिपार्टमेंट कह रहा है जीएसटी मत लगाओ. यहाँ पे तो आप कह रहे हो कि मैं इंटरेस्ट लगना चाहिए था 8%, एम्प्लॉय से रिकवर कर रहा हूँ 5%, तो क्या जीएसटी लगाना चाहिए? किस कंपोनेंट पे? 5% के ऊपर. 5% पे तो देर इज नो जीएसटी एप्लीकेबल इन केस ऑफ इंटरेस्ट विद रिगार्ड टू लोन. वो तो जीएसटी वैसे ही एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. विद रिगार्ड टू 3% कंपोनेंट जो आपको बेनिफिट दे रहे हो वो तो आपने रिकवर करा ही नहीं, कंसिडरेशन का पार्ट नहीं है. सो आइडियली आई डू नॉट थिंक इस पे कहीं पे भी इंटरेस्ट जीएसटी लग सकता है. Amit Kumar ji, if the GSTR 3B for Feb and March deserve, will the input tax rate be allowed? So Amit ji has asked the most interesting question. If the GSTR 3B for Feb and March has been filed in December 2020, will ITC bill be allowed? Department is asking that they will not allow the ITC and they will reverse the ITC. Sir, it feels so. The language इस तरीके से है कि नहीं मिलना चाहिए, but आप इसको छोड़ना मत until and unless the amount is very small. Please don't leave this. Result will be in your favor only. You will need to litigate and the result will be in your favor, and this we have seen in one or two of the clients. We litigated it and at the lower level itself we got the result in our benefit. Please don't leave it. This is in your benefit only. So Ashok Bhandari ji, you are paying 4,000 per month as maintenance charges per member. There is a exemption to the extent of 7,500 per person per member per month. तो आप उससे नीचे तो जीएसटी देने की आवश्यकता नहीं है, देने की बात नहीं है. the supplier should not have raised the invoice itself. Please note, the exemption is available only to a resident welfare association. Most probably the bill that you are receiving is from a incorporated developer, which is a company itself. उन लोगों को, they are not getting this exemption. Thereby the answer would be yes. If the bill is raised by a company, you will need to pay GST. If the bill is raised by a resident welfare association, there's an exemption available to you and you need not pay any GST on the same.